All right, buckle up because today we are diving deep into a conversation with Bill Gates. And I got to say, this one gets really interesting.
Oh, for sure. Especially when they get into the whole thing about extreme wealth and philanthropy. It's like listening in on a conversation that you don't normally hear.
Yeah, the kind of stuff people think about but don't always say out loud.
Exactly.
So we're unpacking this really insightful conversation that Gates had with Indian entrepreneur Nikhil Kamath. And let me tell you, Kamath does not hold back. Like right off the bat, he's asking Gates, what's the point of philanthropy today? Is it even possible for billionaires, even with the best intentions, to really make a dent in these massive global problems we're facing?
It's a bold question, and I was really struck by Gates' response. It's not like he tries to sugarcoat it or pretend that philanthropy is some magic solution.
Right.
He's very clear that philanthropy can't replace governments or businesses. It has a different role to play.
Yeah. He uses this phrase like philanthropy being a space for bold experimentation.
Yes. And I think that's such a great way to put it. He's talking about taking risks, funding those moonshot ideas that governments and corporations might shy away from because there's just so much uncertainty.
And he gets into specifics too. Like he talks about how his foundation is putting resources into things like malaria vaccines and exploring totally new approaches to energy production, the kind of stuff that could have a huge impact but also might not pan out.
Exactly. High risk, high reward. And I think that's something that philanthropy, especially when you're talking about someone with the resources of Bill Gates, can do in a way that other sectors just can't.
Okay, but then it gets even more interesting because Kamath doesn't let him off the hook. He goes there asking about like billionaire extravagance and where's the line between enjoying your wealth and using it responsibly? I mean, it's a question a lot of people are asking these days.
It's a tough one, right? And Gates, to his credit, doesn't shy away from it. He seems to be advocating for this kind of nuanced approach where you acknowledge, okay, there are benefits to a capitalist system, but you also recognize the importance of having a strong social safety net. Philanthropy, for him, kind of exists in this space in between. It's a way to drive progress, address inequality without, completely overhauling the whole system.
Right, and he also talks about the Giving Pledge, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is this commitment he and Melinda French Gates made to give away most of their wealth. And what's interesting is he doesn't present it as the solution.
Yeah, it's more like this is what we're doing, and it's kind of a starting point for a bigger conversation about wealth and responsibility.
It's almost like he's saying, hey, we have this incredible opportunity, but also this enormous responsibility. How do we even begin to think about this?
Absolutely. And by putting it out there, by kind of leading by example, he's challenging other ultra-wealthy individuals to at least grapple with these questions.
Yeah, like what does it actually mean to be responsible with wealth on that scale? It's not an easy question to answer.
No, it's not. And I don't think there are any easy answers.
And, that whole idea of experimenting and taking risks leads right into the next big thing Gates is clearly passionate about, artificial intelligence.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is someone who's been living and breathing AI for decades, both through his company and his philanthropic work.
Right. And I think what really struck me in this conversation was his sense of urgency about AI. It's not just, oh, this technology is cool and has potential. He's really grappling with the magnitude of what's happening.
Yeah, he doesn't sugarcoat it at all. He's very upfront about the potential downsides, the disruptions to the job market, the need to make sure the benefits are shared equitably. But at the same time, he's incredibly enthusiastic about the positive changes that AI could bring about.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, this weird mix of excitement and maybe even a little bit of fear. Like, I don't think you hear Bill Gates every day saying, wow, I did not see these breakthroughs coming this fast.
Right. There's this one part where he's talking about how AI models can now write poetry that's practically indistinguishable from human written verse. And you can almost hear the amazement in his voice. Like, even he's a little blown away by how quickly things are advancing.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing stuff. And it definitely makes you realize, like, okay, we're in uncharted territory here. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about something that might be particularly relevant to you. We know you're interested in mention listeners' specific area of interest, if known, otherwise use general phrasing like business, technology, and global trends. And in this conversation, Gates specifically calls out India as this hotbed for entrepreneurial activity, particularly when it comes to AI.
Yeah, he's really bullish on India. And one of the things he points to is the advantage Indian entrepreneurs have in understanding the specific needs and challenges of the Indian market. Like he talks about things like legal tech, where AI could make legal services way more accessible and affordable.
Right, because the legal system in India is so complex and often very difficult for the average person to navigate.
Exactly. And then he also talks about the potential for AI in agriculture, which is huge in India. Imagine using AI to help farmers optimize their yields, adapt to climate change, things like that.
It's like he's saying, don't just try to replicate what's happening in Silicon Valley. Look around you, identify the problems in your own backyard, and use these tools to build solutions.
Totally. And he even suggests that India might be more open to embracing AI in healthcare than a place like the US, where you've got all these regulations and potential roadblocks. Think about the possibilities of personalized healthcare solutions designed for 1 billion people.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it that way.
Yeah.
Like he's talking about using AI, not just to make things more efficient, but also to potentially bridge these huge gaps in access and opportunity. And then it gets even better, right? Because Kamath, he's like, okay, Bill, let's get practical.
Oh.
Let's say I'm a 25-year-old in India. I've got $100,000, no special tech skills. What's my move? Like, give me the Bill Gates playbook.
Yeah, it's a great question. And Gates, he doesn't disappoint. He doesn't just give some vague advice about, following your passion. He gets surprisingly specific.
Oh, yeah, he goes there.
He says, look, focus on building AI applications. But here's the thing. He's not saying go build your own AI models from scratch.
Okay, so what's he saying?
He's saying there are these incredibly powerful platforms out there already, like Google, Microsoft. They've done a lot of the heavy lifting.
So why reinvent the wheel?
Right, exactly. Use what's already there. Become an expert at identifying a specific customer need, something really specific to the Indian market, and then use those existing tools, those platforms, to build your solution. I think he uses this phrase, building on top of these platforms, which I thought was really key.
It's like that saying, stand on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
You don't have to do it all yourself.
Exactly. And it's interesting because even Bill Gates, someone who, has seen it all, built one of the biggest tech companies in the world, even he admits to being a little envious of those folks who are on the cutting edge of the foundational AI stuff.
Really?
Yeah, there's this moment where he's talking about how these AI models are doing things that are in some ways superhuman, and you can kind of hear this, a hint of awe in his voice. Like, even he's a little bit starstruck by what's being developed.
It really makes you think, right? Like, what does it even mean to be intelligent, to be human in a world where machines can do things that we never thought possible?
It's a big question, and I think it's something that we're all going to be grappling with more and more in the years to come.
No doubt. So to wrap up this wild ride, we explored how philanthropy is changing, dove headfirst into the exciting but also kind of scary world of AI, and then zoomed in on the incredible opportunities popping up in India, especially for anyone with an entrepreneurial spirit.
And if you take away just one thing from this whole conversation, I think it's that point about superhuman AI already being here. That's not just some cool science fiction thing anymore. It's real, and it's happening now. So the question is, how do we adapt? How do we make sure these incredible tools are used for good?
It's a question we all have to ask ourselves. And on that note, we want to hear from you. What really got your gears turning in this deep dive? Hit us up on social media because, like always, this is just the beginning of the conversation. Until next time, stay curious, keep asking those tough questions, and let's keep exploring this wild world together.